allow them to participate and make this an open discussion, because I think it's terribly important.
All right, we have a motion on the floor and second, so we have to vote.
Ms. Howe?
Yes.
Ms. Wilson?
No.
Mr. Benzi?
No.
Ms. Kellerman?
Yes.
Mr. Funes-Bliss?
No.
Mr. Rosecrans?
Yes.
Ms. Butler Challenger, no.
So is that a 4-3?
Yeah.
Okay. So we don't have a public hearing. Sorry about that,
But I get my report.
but you give your report.
So, audience, I will try to communicate what I have heard from you all along and what you put in tonight, and excuse me if I don't get it all out there. The last time I brought this up, my words were interpreted, I'm sure it was my fault, that what was indicated was I wanted $35,000 federal cooling center for our senior center to become. That was not my intention. And I feel beyond appalled that when we had lots of warning that we had bad weather, the worst smoke history of Michigan's entire life, that we didn't open our center at least 8 to 10 hours a day for our seniors, many of whom have paid taxes in this community longer than many of you have been alive.
I will object to that.
Well, yes, there's a few of us that it's not true. But, and I
Only a few of us.
I guess what's also terribly upsetting to me, and from talking to folks there, that it's not just, yes, send them to the library, send them wherever. Their friends are there. That's where they know people. This is where they're comfortable. And some people say, well, they would get in their car and go out in this horrible air to come to the senior center. Some people don't have air conditioning at home. Some people don't have proper heat and air. We're talking about making it bigger. Why? We won't even open it up for 5 days a week for food. Lots of old people that I've known, I've watched. A good meal, 5 or 6 or 7 days a week, is so bloody important. Friendship, when they live home alone, and they can get free rides there. The companionship. I just cannot understand of all the things that we can spend a little money, and we have volunteers, you just heard them tonight, to take the key there and open the door. I almost did when that weather was so bad and that door was locked. I almost went over there and opened it myself. And excuse me if I'm emotional, but that's how I felt. And many people in this community feel the same way. I was going to open the door and see if I was going to get arrested because those people needed a place to go. And for this board to not understand this is beyond my understanding. And if I've missed anything, I apologize.
Do you have a comment?
I have a question, yeah.
Oh, okay.
I don't think it's a matter of we don't understand what you're talking about, or even don't disagree. But you did ask Karen for a cooling center. So I understand that's not what you intended, but I don't want to fault her for doing the words that you said.
No, it was a part of being used for that, and that was my fault, that my bad communication.
No, I'm
I
not
understand.
criticizing, I just want to
No.
be honest. with
I know,
folks.
that's right, but I think it was,
It feels to me, Sherry, like what you really want is the senior center to be open 5 days a week with meals. And I think that is a legitimate,
Right.
reasonable request. But every time you talk about it, it's about an emergency center, it's about a cooling center. What I haven't seen you bring to the table is a proposal to open it 5 days a week for food. I think we should talk about that. I think we should
that's what
think
that's
about
what I want to
that.
bring here, is I don't have the numbers of what it costs. Also, oh, I'm sorry, I missed one of my things, is a lot of businesses have time cards and people clock in, and this was just brought up by the lady that was beautifully, Bethany. Why we don't have time cards and people clocking in at the senior center, so that I could have an idea how many hours, and I think people that work there, sorry, Go.
They do have time cards.
They do? Okay. And I was misinformed.
But not like a time clock, right?
Clock.
So there are a couple people over there that still use the paper timesheets, and that is because, as Bethany mentioned, we're getting paid for a Friday that they haven't worked yet. So they are getting paid 2 weeks behind because they don't always know how long they're gonna be here cleaning up. So we have those people that are still using paper. Jenna uses, typically uses the electronic one.
And I guess one of the other things that Karen and I talked about a little bit is we don't have enough people for meals to make it pay for itself. And I say nobody knows the magic numbers. COVID took a hit on everything. We don't really know where it's coming. It's growing, growing, growing. More meals. I think I'm correct on that. I've heard from the center that we're increasing. Will we pay for it if we add 5 days a week? Who knows yet? I don't think anybody can predict that magic number. But to not try it, I just find that absolutely, and we're talking about making it bigger. Well, if we're going to keep it closed most of the time, why make anything bigger? Why not just shut the doors? And one other thing, then I'll defer,
Okay, I have
is
a question.
that I have, it's called senior center, not gambling center, not bingo center. And, yes, AA is there, and I certainly support that. There are other churches and places too, that people can go to, but our seniors know each other there, and I think they're more comfortable being there. So that's,
Trustee Benzie, you had a question?
Yeah, well, I see in my packet that I have, putting together the CIP proposals. And also I see in my packet that we're doing the ARPA funds proposals. So I guess I can welcome the board to the budget season a little bit earlier this year because we're already starting on it. And that's a part of what you are recommending. So welcome to the budget season. I'm looking forward to your proposal. Okay?
I'll try.
I have a quick question. Trustee Feedwin's Bliss referenced the fact that it has to do with food. I think.
No.
Okay, no. So the idea of having it open 5 days a week for food, the issue, as I understood it from what you were saying here, was the weather. That
All
it's
things.
so hot. Okay.
Food is part of it, weather is part of it.
Okay.
And
That's-
that was just an extreme example of when we knew far ahead of time that this smoke, heat, all was coming on the same days, to not make an exception. And instead of making the exception to have it open more hours, it was closed for routine cleaning for 10 days. And that just pushed me over the edge of the cliff.
So it's more, at this point, we're looking, and that's what you're talking about, the budget. We're looking at more of a weather extreme.
Well,
And food.
and food,
So
and
there's
openness.
two different issues.
Three,
Okay.
openness,
Okay.
community availability to them. All of this rolled into one, not just pick out one thing.
Okay.
Perhaps the food 5 days would prove to be not a good thing, or maybe it will. Time will tell us those answers, I believe.
But the cooling center is an addition to.
It's all together, yeah.
Okay,
It's,
gotcha.
it's each one.
Before COVID, we were open 5 days. And it just didn't get started back
Okay.
started back at 3 days.
Right.
And it's been just waiting for the committee to bring it to us to go to 5 days.
I'm the committee and I'm bringing it.
But it's gotta be a proposal.
gotta-
Like, when we moved from the first time from 3 to 5, we had papers that told us, here's how many meals, here's how much it's gonna cost. So we knew the impact. And then the board did agree that we needed to move that way. I think that's what folks have been waiting for, is for someone to say exactly what it is you all want it to be.
Okay.
With
Then
the
we need to-
acknowledgement that, we can't really open things up with volunteers running it. There's risk, as you heard our friend just describe, it would be on the chart. So it has to be staffed, but it's not gonna be staffed 24/7, so some of these emergencies will certainly happen at night, right? Losing power and air and those types of things, that would happen at night.
When
We
I'm-
have an emergency plan for the township, so I know some folks in public comment were asking like, what would happen if there was an emergency? There's an approved emergency plan. We have a plan for that. So I think that's where, I don't want to speak for Karen because she's not here, but to limit the scope of what exactly it is you want brought before this board so that we can vote on it. If you don't want us to be a gambling center, we have board policy that says we will rent out that facility. We have to change that policy because right now you or I could come up and rent the whole facility out because the policy allows us to.
Right, and when I found out that the rental was about $18 a day to keep our seniors out of there, I was rather amazed that that was not a financial important amount of money. It truly boggled me. The more I learn about this, the more boggled I am by those situations.
I think that's really fair, but what I think is not helpful is like ranting on Facebook that people need to be fired because they've made decisions. Karen's making those decisions because the board has told her to. She's actually not empowered to make those decisions. Not us, right? A previous board has set policy for that facility. So it's not up to her in some ways.
In deference to myself, I don't think I ranted about that, but,
I mean, I can
So be
print
it.
you off a copy where you said that the person who made the decision needed to be fired. I think it would help to like take it
So
down
she
a
did make-
notch.
So that was what you had asked before. Who made the decision?
Yeah, who made the
So
decision?
That's exactly,
Decision on what?
well, I don't know.
but
decision
the
on
whole,
closing it.
when do we, I want to bring to this board, do we want to try 5 days a week? Do we want to have the, open to seniors more than 2 or 3 hours a day? I've been trying to go to that here.
Cheryl, at the last board meeting, when I wrote my minutes, this is how I understood what you said last meeting. That you are gonna provide materials to be placed on the next Board of Trustees, in the next Board of Trustees packet on what the seniors need, what they want, and what can the township do to help you achieve the request. And that was what I thought you were gonna bring to this meeting.
Right, and I'm finding it difficult to find numbers to bring here to say this is what it will cost to go to 5 days a week for food. I've basically been told it's not possible, and we don't have the numbers, but it's hard for me to gather that
We
up.
definitely could do that. I mean, you should schedule a time with Karen and she can pull out and we're never gonna pay for them, that was never the intent that we would make enough money to pay for the cost of it. We lose money, we lose like $85,000 on it a year. It's not meant to be a money-making endeavor, so, just so you can hear from me, my
Right.
intent is not to say we need to make enough
Make
money
money.
to pay for it. That's just not what we should be in business to do.
I have a question, which has to do with the fact that it has to be an employee in order to keep it open 5 days a week, okay? That our volunteers couldn't do that because too
Liability.
many other liabilities come in. There is, and I presented it, which there is a waiver that can be signed that exempts the township from everything. Workers' comp, tripping
don't
and
think so.
falling kind of thing, and that can
The
be
state
signed.
the state of Michigan comes and inspects that place.
Yes, that's true.
And anytime that they walk in, Judy can tell you, Dennis can tell you, I was on the board with them over there. If the state comes in and there isn't a certified person in there,
What's a certified person?
a person that has gone to school for their cooking.
Oh, all right.
And
But
if that
that's-
person isn't there, this place is shut down.
So the
I
cook
mean,
has
it
to.
isn't
so
a
the
complicated
cook.
thing.
So the cook has to
If
be
they're
there.
eating in there.
You
Yes.
have to have.
If the food is there.
Yeah, that
Then
part
the cook
of it.
has to be.
Okay.
But for a center to be open, a volunteer can open, close,
Oh,
be
yes.
there, okay.
Okay.
But if you think about that chart that she was showing us, where the risk
Yes.
increases, the risk goes up
The risk of not doing
tremendously.
anything
But if you have a waiver, there is no risk.
But those waivers do not hold up
Where
in
is
court.
The building.
That's-
It's a, we
No,
can do
a
it.
volunteer waiver.
We
I
don't
was a
need- I'm
volunteer
not a
coordinator
judge, I
for
don't
20
know.
years, and we were always
As a-
taught that those volunteer waivers do not hold up well. So if somebody were to steal from over there, if someone were to slip and fall from over, like, all of those things that our staff are held accountable to, you know, God bless the volunteers that would want to take that on, but I don't know that we would want them to take it
Do
on.
they carry insurance when we hire someone to work? Do they
That's
do
what
they
the
have
waiver
liability?
says that
Yeah.
they
Yes.
don't.
Yeah, but they're insured.
Yeah,
But
we're
so-
insured as a
So
township.
what if I understand this right, you're saying that if I'm there and I open the door and he comes in and falls, then the township is liable, but if you're there because you're paid staff, then
Township's still
then you're
liable.
covered.
Well, you're considered staff in that way too.
Well, not Kate, not me,
You're a
but somebody
trustee.
else, those
Yeah.
guys.
Yeah, I mean, especially if you think about the committee, right? The committee do have formal places in the township, right? They do receive some amount of money, it's minimal. But a good lawyer would be able to make those connections to say, look, you know, Judy's got authority in the township, she's the chair of the committee, she let someone in and they hurt themselves.
Right.
It's
So-
not perfect, right? And maybe it's unlikely, but we have deep pockets, right? It's real easy for
But we
someone to
could hire,
go
we could hire
looking for money.
Judy at $1 an hour, Judy, thank you very much, and put her on the, then we'd still have to pay the insurance to go, I'm trying to learn this, come up with answers, but
Yeah, I mean,
We
we
could
have,
do that. We could-
we
there's
have
ways
insurance
around
as a
some.
township that our staff are protected under and that our guests are protected under when we have taken care to protect them.
Can Lizzie get up and talk on this subject?
do you
I've
have? Yeah, I'd
been
love it.
motioning for her to do so, so.
Help!
That's what that was. I think that we're trying to find that right balance between what is truly a volunteer and what is someone who, under the law, would ultimately be classified as an employee regardless of what we call them, regardless of what they sign. And I think that's what I'm hearing. You know, if someone is coming in to provide assistance and be there while other staff are there and responsible and accountable, then that's a volunteer, right? But if we have someone who has the access, gets to decide when and how it's open, is gonna be responsible for managing the program or whatever's happening that day, it's a continuum. And the law is, in particular the IRS, is pretty persnickety about
Yes.
how we go along that continuum. So the more indicia of control or employee-like relationships, the closer we get to exactly what Trustee Fewens Bliss has mentioned, which is those waivers just don't work in the way that we want them to. I frankly think that the value of a waiver in those scenarios, or in other scenarios, like we have a member of the community who's working in a particular interesting project in the park, they're of value to say, hey, we're putting you on notice that we need to be careful, this is how we consider you. But at the end of the day, will that be upheld in a court of law? I think Madam Supervisor said, I'm not a judge, me neither. And so, and I don't particularly like playing roll the dice with the judge, I like to stack myself up better than that. So,
Yes, you do.
I think in these cases, what we have to establish is what would the expectations of a volunteer, an actual volunteer be, as opposed to what are the things we would need somebody to do, and does that need to be a hired full-time or part-time staff? So one of the suggestions that came up previously was, I think in response to one of the earlier comments raised on this topic was, well, if we were gonna staff it full-time, this is what that would cost. I think based on increasing the existing director, I don't know what her title is, excuse me for that, but increasing the existing director's hours, for instance. But you could also hire part-time employees. If we're going to hire part-time employees, though, we've gotta pay them minimum wage, we've gotta follow our own policies on what we offer to part-timers.
I have a question with that.
Please.
No, I understand. So if we appoint with our committees, they should be paid minimum wage? Is that, because they're volunteers,
Did, the
I mean, does
introductory
that-
part of my statement was if we choose
right?
to have volunteers or if we're going to have staff. Those were my clarifications.
No, I understand
If we're going to
that.
have a volunteer, that's somebody who's coming in to be present, to maybe be, part of the conversation or the card game or whatever it is that happens.
Okay.
I haven't had the privilege of being in the center, but if we're going to have someone who has the key, who has the responsibility to open it if there's smoke or hot weather or whatever, and is supposed to be there, or even signs up to cover certain hours, the more we do those things, the further we nudge that, I mentioned that indicia of control, which
Right.
moves the employment classification further along. So as you are structuring and talking about how you wish to proceed, if there's a desire to utilize volunteers, let's think about what are suitable duties for volunteers versus what do we actually need somebody, so we can say, hey, why aren't you there opening the center? Because I don't think that's how you would talk to your volunteers.
But our committees volunteer too, so those are different,
Absolutely different.
okay,
Yeah.
gotcha.
Well, and one other thing that I would like to add here is we're paying someone to manage the center who is working from home a large portion of her hours. COVID is over, and for my personal opinion, hours being paid should be in the center, open the doors and let people in. We're paying her.
Sherry, I think you've made that clear. You haven't gotten a lot of support at the board. If I were to give you some advice, I would say, let that go and focus on the open 5 days a week. I think you're much more apt to get support for that than to try to get into the supervision of our staff. I think that is beyond our scope. That is free advice to you. You can tell me to shove it and you do your own thing, but to me, I wouldn't want those things coupled, because I don't want to get in to the day-to-day with staff, but I'm certainly willing to support an idea of opening again for 5 days. Does that make sense?
Right, it does in some degree or another, but then it adds a lot more cost to it when we pay somebody to work 15 hours
Yeah.
at home during the week
I think that's.
to keep the center open. It's all cost, to be cost effective.
Yeah,
I'm
no,
all for that.
I think that's fair.
All right, is there any other discussion? Do you have anything else?
I'm done.
Okay, all right. Next is our 13B with our ARPA fund proposal, which there was a statement. Apparently, should I read this or do you want to read it?
It's up to you, however
Nope,
you.
go right ahead.
Okay. So the memo provided to you all is just an update stating that we received several recommendations for the use of ARPA funds from various township departments and committees. We will be reviewing those in the superintendent's office and ensuring that they meet the eligibility criteria for ARPA fund expenditures. And we'll be bringing those recommendations back to you in a packet for your review in August.
So she is contacting all of the committees?
Yes, we already did previously.
Okay,
Yes.
because that should have been done by now. but
Yes,
it
we did
sounds like-
previously.
okay.
So we contacted all of them after the meeting that you all asked for that to happen, I believe the first meeting in June. We
And then-
contacted them that week and we received proposals through,
Oh, so there were written proposals, is what was being asked of them.
not really proposals,
Okay.
recommendations.
Okay.
Proposals is too strong of a word. It was just general ideas of how
Of how
ARPA funds
they
could be
They
used.
would use the ARPA.
Yes. Yeah, not
Okay.
formal
No, I'm just
proposals.
looking at the time frame because initially it was said that it would be done by now, but apparently it's not. So it'll be August
We
7th?
had last week as the deadline, the day of the packet to be the deadline so that we could collect those, and we will be reviewing them.
So what?
We're just going to be reviewing
But
them
we're gonna
before
see
yes,
what-
we will bring
okay,
all of them to the
that's
next
what I-
meeting.
so I
We're
was gonna
just
say,
making
are
sure
you-
that the recommendations meet the criteria for what you can use ARPA funds for.
Okay, but it's not for you to determine whether we
No,
see or
we
don't see?
are not doing that,
Gotcha.
no.
And that'll be August 7th?
I'm not sure if it's going to be the next meeting or August, or the second meeting, she didn't specify.
Okay. You know, I don't even know what is the next meeting?
August
7th.
8th?
Well, 7th is the next one, but what's the one after that?
The 21st?
21st. That's what I was gonna, okay. I was gonna say 19th, so you're 21st. So we should have that list by the 7th or drop dead date 21st.
Correct.
Okay, gotcha. Thank you. Okay. Items for action.
Oh, no, you had
Sirens.
13C added.
Oh, that's right, that was mine. Sorry about that. Oh, because we moved it for discussion.
Correct.
My update for that, and the treasurer was saying that apparently she talked with, what is his name?
Assistant Fire Chief.
I know, Douglas.
Douglas.
Kevin Douglas.
Kevin Douglas. she talked with him, and he's working on it. My update is the fact that it was given to me, the poll. So I need to apparently talk with Kevin, or Kevin needs to talk to me, to figure out what's going on, because we have the poll. And the poll apparently runs about $1,200 to $1,500. I did not realize that.
Is it like a pole in the
Yeah.
ground?
Oh, no, it's laying in my front yard. Yes,
Is
but
it a wood pole or metal pole?
it's what?
Is it a wood pole or metal pole?
Oh, no, it's a wood pole.
Wait, you have the
Wood
pole?
pole,
Yeah, I
wood
do.
pole will
How
not
did
do
you
it.
get the pole?
Well, the neighbor got it, and he didn't want to put it in his yard, so it was in my yard.
It's gotta
But we
be a-
paid, the township paid for it?
Oh, no.
Somebody
No,
donated it?
It was given.
Oh,
he got
okay,
it.
you're saying
So-
you have a pole.
I have
Got it.
I have the pole that we're looking at, or was looking at, for that north end siren
Yeah,
attachment.
but is there
So
gonna be
that's-
more than one or just one?
Oh, no, it's one.
Well, yeah, but I'm just saying, the whole north end is not covered.
That's right. It's
I
not
know
covered.
your area
It's a-
isn't,
Neither's
but
the
the
east
rest of it
end.
isn't.
Either,
Neither's the east.
And that's why I'm asking about the amount of money for 5, 6 sirens, not just one for you guys.
so in other words, you want to distribute them throughout the north end and
Well, he was
hopefully
gonna
on the
check
east
on that.
side,
Yeah.
So that,
What, yeah, how much money for each one and how many do we need, I guess?
Well, and that's
Well,
what Kevin
Kevin-
is
and that's
looking
looking
into.
Yeah, that's what Kevin is after.
right, that's
He's
what,
gonna-
that's what I'm
he
saying.
says he's
that
getting a map
he's-
that
he's
shows
checking,
where we need them
you know,
and how
well,
many, and
How far, how much the tree will block the siren going,
right.
and so how quick you have to have them, and how, if you can catch a hill.
well, the one on Upton, and then they go 360, I mean, that's,
Oh,
you
yeah.
know, for their area, fully around. And I get that, but there's lots of bushes and things that are there, so I don't know who hears. But again, those have been checked. So my only update at this point is that there is a poll. If you're looking at more than the one, I mean, that's all that
No,
was
that was
being
my
asked.
question.
Yeah.
Well, that's all that was being asked.
I mean, you gotta cover everybody, you just can't cover a certain.
Not your
area
yard,
of the
Old.
Township.
Not in my yard, that's for darn sure. Of course, that's what everybody says, not in my yard. But, no, I did not, and I don't think Mr. Trim knew that either, that you're actually now considering more in the north end.
Douglas knows.
So that's, well, and it's up to you, it's up to this board. Are we considering?
Well, let's find out a bid.
One, is that,
Well, I think that's what Kevin was bringing.
Yes, if I may. Kevin is bringing a map that is showing where all of the current sirens
We have
are
4.
and what the radius is that the sound of the siren reaches.
I
So,
understand, yeah, I
yes,
understand the
so he's
radius,
bringing
but
that
if you're
to.
not hearing it, it doesn't make
Yes,
any
I
difference what the
understand,
radius,
that's
okay.
what I'm saying. So he's bringing how much of the township is covered by that and how many additional we may need in order to cover the full township.
And
That is,
also,
that is
okay.
the
So-
data that he's collecting currently.
So that is definitely something that
and they're,
needs to let the
you have to be
constituent
out of your
know.
house to hear them. They're not gonna be in your house
Oh,
to
no
hear 'em.
question. It used to be when you run a siren to an emergency, it's blowing the other, nobody hears it because,
You gotta be outside to hear
yeah,
it.
the wind is like, nobody hears it. You hear it, but nobody else hears it.
Taylor, is that going to include any land acquisition we would need?
Not
Not
sure
digital.
about that. That's a question that I can ask Kevin though.
Well, if you're gonna talk to Kevin, would you please have him give me a call? So that he and I can
Sure, I
talk,
can
okay,
pass that
thank
along.
you. That would be good. Okay. All right, hang on, just let me write myself a note. So I can contact the constituent to let him know that this actually is turning into the whole township. Is that a good way to put it or not?
Or at least
Well, you've
answer.
got
Say that
to-
we're
you've gotta check.
reviewing.
Okay. Of course, how long do reviews take?
I know that he's received some information back already. I'm just not
Okay.
sure how much of it
Okay.
he has received.
I'll talk, well, when
Yeah,
you let
you
him know.
can ask him about that.
Yep, thank you. Okay. We talked about the ARPA funds. We talked about the siren update. So items for action. He's been patiently sitting there waiting on the edge of his seat. Second reading and adoption of the ordinance 3184 for home businesses.
Okay,
All right, so this is the third time this one's been before the board, so in case anybody's new, or just to remind everyone, I'll go through my spiel here again for this ordinance. So from some hard work from staff here and the members of the planning commission, we are looking to do an overhaul of how home businesses are evaluated and processed throughout the township. I did get some questions, this week pertaining to this ordinance, so I'll just speak to those quickly here. I wanna reiterate that the intent of this ordinance is to not have any effect on agricultural, land uses. If anyone at the board remembers, we previously installed some ordinances, particularly in the rural area, that deal with GLAMP standards and using MDARD as the proxy for inspections and determining if a property is meeting all agricultural standards. That's not included in this ordinance, cause it isn't amended here, but a lot of that ruling, a lot of those ordinances would supersede some of the language here, and then of course the Right to the Farm Act would obviously supersede any language within the township's regulatory or zoning ordinances. So the hope here and the intent here is that we're creating a cleaner, more streamlined and more transparent process as it relates to determining what a home business is versus a home occupation, and then creating a transparent process on how home businesses will be evaluated and what that permitting process would look like. I guess I would encourage any landowners that are listening to the meeting tonight, or business owners, please seek out this process and be involved in it. We're creating it so you can get licensed up and keep everything above board with your home business, and just not have to look over your back thinking the township's gonna come after you one day, cause that's not our intention. Our intention is for you to thrive in this community. We know that Bath Township has a little bit of a dual community sense sometimes, because it's more traditional suburbs in the south and more rural agricultural, more interesting or innovation of land uses going on in the north, and we want to cater to both of those, and that's the intent of this ordinance. Yes?
It seems like I asked this question before, but I'm sorry if you're having to explain it a second time, but you're really good about that.
For sure.
Someone has to register for a home business.
Yeah, we would appreciate that.
Okay.
They would come in and determine.
How much is
I guess, so if you need to do the home business process, it would be $100, but I'm gonna back it up first. 'Cause
Okay.
first we have to determine if you even are a home business.
Right.
We've actually, working with the planning commission on how wide of a net we wanna cast, I guess, would be the metaphor for this, to do a dragnet effect to get these home businesses to register. We've decided to go with a metaphorically smaller net. That would put more land uses in the category of a home occupation. So what, the mechanism that we're encouraging people to use to determine that is submit a request for a zoning verification letter. We've been doing more of these frequently, well, the frequency of these has been greater lately. The home verification, or the zoning verification process is $50. And now you'll get a letter from the planning department saying this land use has been, on this parcel has been determined to be in this category and is within all good and reasonable standards of township zoning and regulatory ordinance. Or this land use is not within the zoning or, regulatory standards of the ordinance, you are in violations of these, sections, and this would be the remedy of how to come into compliance.
So it's the land size
So,
of the home business that, so if someone has an acre in a home business, or someone has 5 acres in a home business, there's a difference between those two registrations?
no, we tried to actually take any measure of size of property out of it, cause we wanted to be equitable about how we're treating people with home businesses. We didn't want, and that conversation was had, but, we didn't want somebody to have a benefit because they could afford 400 acres and somebody else that can afford half an acre. All the rules apply to them, but no rules apply to the 400 acre parcel.
But now they're equal.
They're
according to
equal,
this.
and
Okay.
it's all based around economic impact on the parcel. Economic activity is the word we went with.
So if my business is thriving at 1 acre and the business on 40 acres is not thriving, then obviously the 1 acre thriving,
Yeah, if there's more economic activity happening on the 1 acre, then obviously
How would
it's
you
gonna
know that?
score higher. There's a scoring metric that we go
okay,
through.
because I thought you had. Okay. What happens if someone has a business and they don't register?
Well, right now, the current
Is that a-
stance for enforcement of the township and kind of long-standing policy for the last couple of years is it's complaint driven.
Okay, that's,
I'm obviously encouraging people to just, preemptively go ahead and get all your paperwork in order. I always think that's a good process.
and that's where the $100 comes in.
That's where I would encourage people to start with the zoning verification letter to determine if you even need to go down the
So
process.
it's actually 150.
Yeah, if you need it, I would say more often than not in the township, it's probably gonna be just 50 though.
So the zoning variance, the SUP, right,
The zoning
that-
verification letter.
is $50.
Yep.
So if I'm understanding what you're saying, that's basically the same that you would get a license for $100?
No, so the zoning verification letter is a letter saying that the property is doing X land use and that land use is either in good or bad standing with the township.
Right,
More often than not, just from working here for a while now and knowing what I know about the township and how these ordinances have been crafted, say more often than not, the zoning verification letter is gonna come back that you are in fact in good standing.
so you don't need to pay the $100 for a license?
You don't need anything. You'll get a letter, it'll say you're good, that'll be on file with the township, phone call comes in, I don't like what my neighbor's doing, we pull up the property, they got a zoning verification letter, they're good to go. Phone call
Okay.
ended.
Okay. Any other questions, or I'm the only one that always asks questions? Nope. Thank you.
Alright, thank you so much.
We have to take a vote on this.
Yeah.
It does say an item for action.
Ryan,
Yes?
Just waiting on you to call on me.
And again, I don't have to, but yeah, I see you. So, trustee Fiedler's Bliss.
Thank you. I
You're
move
welcome.
approval of the second reading and adoption of ordinance number
Okay.
31.84, home businesses as presented tonight.
Second.
Boy, I don't know. Oh, wait, nope, it's just me sitting here trying to decide what to do.
You're first.
Am I?
Miss
Shame
Howe.
on you. Here, I thought I was gonna be able to. God, this is a toughie for me. This has always been a toughie for me. Registered home businesses just seems. What if I pass and you come back?
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Miss Wilson?
Yes.
Mr. Benzi?
yes,
Miss Kellerman?
Yes.
Mr. Funes Bliss?
Yes.
Mr. Rosecrans?
No,
Miss Butler Challenger, yes. Miss Howe?
Yeah, here I am. Man, I'm gonna go with my gut feeling, sorry. No,
Thank you.
that's just not, I'm sorry, Miles. You put a lot of work into it. Okay. Where are we? This has a special use permit, but there wasn't any information.
Yeah, this was in the packet.
Oh, is that what that was? I looked at that, okay.
Yeah, it says Joshtown Real Estate.
Yep, no, it does say, it has a name on it, but it didn't say anything about special use permit. That's okay.
Okay.
Yep, thank you.
So this is the landscaping and lawn care company
Yep.
that's seeking to establish a business in the township on Peacock Road. Right where Peacock Road kind of meets Old M78. The
Yes.
developer, Josh Tower, is here tonight to answer any questions. Again, this is gonna be a 5-bay warehouse. Its neighboring uses
Yep.
to the north are largely commercial. It actually neighbors another landscaping and lawn care use. large amount of buy-in from residents on the street. Just credit to Josh for reaching out to everybody and getting that buy-in, so, appreciate that.
That's good.
I guess, is there any questions for me or for the developer?
I was just pleased he reached out to the community. It was a great move.
All right, thank you so much.
All right, this is an item for action. Anybody gonna make the motion?
I move approval of the special use permit for Josh Tyler Real Estate LLC. Miles, you want the provisions in here too?
Yeah, with recommended provisions.
With the conditions for approval, as listed about the well and septic.
Second.
Ms. Wilson?
Yes.
Mr. Benzi?
Yes.
Ms. Kellerman?
Yes.
Mr. Funes
Yes.
Mr. Rosecrans?
Yes.
Ms. Butler Challenger, yes. Ms. Howe?
Yes. Okay. Good job. Pretty good job. All right, we have item C, Township Board Meeting Minutes Synopsis.
Okay.
Is that what that extra piece was that you handed
Yeah.
out? Okay.
I handed out to the board 2 pieces of paper. One's a copy of how the synopsis is currently done. Another one is a copy of how we could do it, how I explained it the last meeting. First of all, the township video is put on the website. The current minutes are actions of the board, not what is done and not what is said. They're actions of the board. They are placed
That's what I
on
thought.
on the website. Synopsis is put in the paper and it's a shorter version of what the minutes are.
That's usually my line.
It's up to the board's decision on how we want to continue to do this. We can continue to do it the way I currently do. The way I currently do is not just, well, it is actions of the board. So if something doesn't pass, I still put that in the minutes. While I don't have to, I only have to really put what's approved in the minutes. So I already put a little bit more what's in the minutes. Or we can switch and just put this posting of where they can find it on the website. It's probably more transparent if we do the itemized
That you're currently doing.
that I'm currently doing.
Currently doing.
Currently doing for the synopsis or currently doing for minutes?
For the synopsis.
Okay, the synopsis doesn't
Is a shorter
say,
version
doesn't
of what the
say
minutes is.
of, when you use the term action, which is what your
The action items.
township meeting minutes synopsis say,
Mm-hmm.
that's only what we approved, not what actually took place.
Actually, it's motions. I put in there what is approved and what is not approved. So anytime we do a vote on an action item, I will put that in the synopsis. But
That's not approved.
if we vote on painting these walls purple, and we do a vote on it, and it's voted down, I put that in the synopsis, which I don't have to. I'm only required to put what is
No.
approved.
Well, that's what you keep saying, but for the transparency, I don't care what you're required to do. I understand that. What I want to know is the general public, for them to know what it is that we do. Granted, they can look it up, but we don't have two-way communication, so there's no way that they can express their view as to what's going on. So I get that. I'm hoping that'll come,
But
where
don't
we end up
forget,
with two-way.
if they ever call here, we can always mail them.
Nobody's gonna call and you're not gonna mail. I've never called. No, you're not. You're gonna read
I'm
it
not
in the
gonna
Mail
paper.
people stuff all the time
And that's-
when they call
I-
here.
I don't remember saying, can I just put the hammer down once and say,
Go for it.
you're out of order, which you are? Okay, just so you understand that. That something that, when in fact you end up putting it in there with a synopsis, I prefer that there be more transparency myself. And you and I have talked about that. So you guys do what you want to do.
Alan's got his hand up. I'll speak after him.
I move that we keep on the path that Brenda has kept us on for the last month, year and a half she's been here.
And it's the same
And
as what
Kathy has done before that.
Support.
Second,
That's not actually true, but.
I want my name in the synopsis.
Okay,
Okay.
you got a motion and a second. You got a second, okay.
Mr. Benzi?
yes,
Ms. Kellerman?
Yes.
Mr. Funes Bliss?
Yes.
Mr. Rosecrans?
Yes,
Ms. Butler Challenger, yes. Ms. Howe?
Nope,
Ms. Wilson?
Yes.
Thank you.
oh, I should add, well, that says you didn't make a motion that that goes into the board rules? Is that something that you want? I just happened to think of that, we're looking at board rules,
We could make that decision when we go over the board rules, when we're going through it at the special
to
meeting.
add that.
We can think about
Okay.
it.
Nope,
If
we'll
it-
think
I don't know
about
if it
it.
needs to be in there or not.
Okay.
So we can think about it. How does that sound?
Nope, I just happened to think about it myself, so.
Okay, thanks.
All right, township, no, agreement for the improvement of mowing and the chip and seal for Clinton County. Taylor, did you have?
Yes, I do, thank
Okay.
you. So before you are the two contracts for the mowing and chip seal. The mowing project cost comes to $4,000, and the chip seal for Center to Clark and Clark to Coleman is $75,000.
She's got other ones in there, did you know that?
Was it,
Oh, I missed one, I am so sorry.
There's like two
Um,
more. There's two more.
Yes.
3 more maybe.
Hold on, just a second. I thought that that seemed very low.
Yeah.
So then we also have the chip seal for Slate to Howe, which is 45,000. Angle, or Howe, and then Angle to Upton
Yep.
is 26,000. And then Center Herbison and Clark to Upton is 50,000.
there we go, that's all of them.
Does it make any difference if there's not a balance sheet or sheet?
I'm sorry?
Does it make any difference if there's not one of these? Doesn't make any difference, does it?
Like a total? Well, each one is
No, when you have
signed.
your agreement. No, I'm just curious as to
Yeah.
whether that makes a difference.
Each one is signed individually for each project.
No, I mean, for us to have information, does that make a difference?
I
What are you
don't know what
missing?
I'm sorry, I don't understand what you're
All right,
asking.
if you're missing your agreement for improvement on Clinton County roads, if you're missing this, does that make a difference in this?
All the ones that you're approving
No,
I
no.
have brought to you.
Okay, I'm asking a question out there in Never Never Land,
Okay.
okay? Does it make a difference when we agree to accept the cost,
Mm-hmm.
but it doesn't have an agreement?
Sometimes
To
we
be-
accept the
that
cost
we
prior,
agreed
and then we
on.
bring the agreement afterwards.
Okay,
So there
that's-
are times that does happen. We usually
That's what
approve
I'm
an
asking.
estimate, and then we bring you the contract later on at
Okay.
times.
So-
So there are times usually in the beginning of the year when we don't know what exactly the contract is going to be, this group approves estimates.
Or the project number?
Yes, so they approve,
Okay.
you all approve estimates, and then later on when we have the actual numbers, we bring you the contract, which is what's before you now.
Okay, nope, that's all I was asking.
Okay, I just didn't
Simple
understand, I'm sorry.
question. I didn't think I was not asking right, but that's okay. All right. Do we have the motion?
yeah, I move we go into a contract with the county on the mowing and chip sealing. Chip sealing of $196,000, the mowing of $4,000.
support?
Can I ask a question, as long as you got the support thing going? Do we have the funds for that?
Yes, that's what
Okay.
that top sheet is, it's showing you
No, I
in relation to the road
understand
budget.
what that says, but I mean dollars in the budget.
Yes, that's what that top sheet is showing.
That's what this
Okay.
shows right here.
He's shaking, that's what I need to know. I understand what this says. I'm asking if this money is in their budget, so that when we do it, that's okay. All right, you take a roll call.
Ms. Kellerman?
Thank you.
Yes.
Mr. Funes Bliss?
Yes.
Mr. Rosecrans?
Yes,
Ms. Butler Challenger, yes. Ms. Howe?
Yes.
Ms. Wilson?
Yes.
Mr. Benzi?
Yes,
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Okay, we're in new business because we moved that. I don't see any. Okay, introduction for discussion is the Siegfried Crandall proposal for the audit services for years ending December 31 of 2023. I'm assuming that's what, for the next, okay.
Yes, so this is a proposal to continue our contract with Siegfried Crandall for our financial audits. They have been really great to work with, and we would like to continue that relationship with them. So this would be continuing through fiscal years 2023 through 2025.
Oh,
So this will be brought back to you for action at your next meeting.
how many years have they been with us?
This was our first contract with them, which was about 3 years, I think.
Oh, so they're new.
Yes,
Okay.
we had a prior auditing firm that we went with, and
That's
then
what
they
I-
actually had several partners that left, so then we moved on to having an RFP to find
Okay.
Siegfried Crandall that we have now.
so you'll get back to us with a formal proposal and numbers on this? Yeah,
Yes.
okay.
I have a couple of questions. I assume you all are happy with them, and that's why you're bringing this to us. Did we do another RFP, or are you just bringing this firm back to us?
No, we did not do another RFP. This firm has been really great to work with. Super happy with their work. I know Treasurer Wilson is as well, and as was former Treasurer Wiswasser. So definitely looking to continue that relationship with them.
When you're with the same firm for a while, typically they'll switch the lead partner, so there's, different people looking at different things. Do you know if that's part of this? I couldn't tell just from
I don't
reading it.
believe so. I think as of right now, we will be keeping Steve as our main person. He has mentioned that he has someone below him that will be doing a little bit more work in our next audits. So we may not have as much face-to-face time with Steve, but he will still be reviewing everything.
Could you or Karen ask them that question?
Certainly.
I believe what you're saying. What I would like to hear from them is why they're not switching to another partner, if that's the case. And then I see that the cost is increased if there's a single audit required. And next year, no doubt, we will have to have a single audit due to the ARPA funds. So that 2024
Yes.
would be 19,300? Am I reading that right? Page 12,
Remind
I
me what
think.
page that is?
12?
12? Yes.
Okay. All right, that's helpful, thank you.
We can go on now?
Yep,
Okay.
unless there's any other questions.
Nope. Anybody else have any other questions? All right, it looks like the 10, well, actually B, small b, and A, 14, new business, Chandler Road Corridor.
Yes, so some very exciting news. We were notified that the township was awarded $10 million to the state of Michigan budget under special appropriations for the Chandler Road Corridor project. In total, that project for sewer and water upgrades and the road is going to be $12.2 million. We will be meeting, Karen, myself, Miles, I believe, and then George Baker will be meeting with the road commission and SCUMA to discuss this project now that we have received this money, to verify that that $12.2 million is still an accurate estimate. Typically, our engineering firm pads those numbers a little bit, since they don't always know what costs are gonna come into. So we'll have a better idea of what that total cost will look like, and we'll be able to bring that information to you, so that if there is still a deficit for that project, we can discuss how that would be handled. So very exciting information for some much-needed improvements, so.
That money's gonna flow through the road commission, not us, is that true?
Yes, I believe that's true.
Is that it? Any other? Okay. Still under 14, new business would be the I-69 construction at Peacock Road. It's an update.
Yes, so we received an update from Clinton County Road Commission. This has been an MDOT project, so not something that Clinton County has been working on. But they received information that MDOT went to do some of this resurfacing work on the bridge, and they opened up the bridge and found that it was in much worse condition than they had originally thought. So they are now having to go back to the drawing board and do some new engineering for this project. So it could possibly take longer than was initially estimated. They began it in June, and they were scheduled to open to traffic in early September. So there is a chance that this could go farther into the later roadworks season. But as we know more, we will certainly keep you all updated as well as the public.
Any questions? Okay, doesn't appear that new business has any items for action. Are you going to give a superintendent's
Yes, I do
report?
have a couple things.
Okay.
The police department received over 100 applications for the new administrative assistant position. That process closed on Friday. The chief, lieutenant, and office manager, Christy Colby, have narrowed down candidates, and they will begin phone interviews starting the end of this week. So very exciting, hoping to get someone in there sometime late August. The township also had a new phone system installed right after the Independence Day holiday. Process took about 2 full working days. There's a lot of moving pieces happening, but it has been working well since then with a few minor issues that we've had to overcome.
Why?
Our previous system was outdated and it was actually starting to have
Really?
issues.
Okay,
So we have directories, such as for the police department, that if you call, you don't get Christy to answer, then it goes to a directory so that you can leave a message for an officer. We had re-recorded that as we had a couple new officers, and it was not saving, due to the system being out of date. So it was no longer working properly, so we.
so if someone
We're able
wanted
to
to
get it.
personally talk to a police officer, they had a special number to go
So
to?
it's usually, if Christy's out of the office or if she's at lunch and somebody calls, then obviously she's not there to pick it up. It goes to a directory and it lists all of the police officers. So if you need to leave them a voicemail, then you'd be able to access their voicemail, but it was not reading the correct names because it would not save, so.
So it wouldn't go into her voicemail, it would go into, okay.
Yep, so just a couple of issues that were happening, but those seem to be fixed now with the new system, so.
Who's the new system? Who's the new?
It's still through ACD, which is our phone company. We just needed an upgraded system that handles all of
Oh,
our
okay.
phone lines and
So it's an
extensions.
upgrade. Okay,
Yes,
got
just an
it.
upgrade.
It's not a new system, it's an upgrade of an old system. And ACD?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Is that it?
Yes, that's all.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, our next would be item 16, public statements. And this can be done on anything.
Dennis Lardy, Coleman Road. I just wanted to, I mentioned that those of us on the Senior Advisory Board are willing to volunteer in the senior center, and I heard that, I think it was Mr. Bliss said something about the volunteers were not to be used. Technically, those of us on the senior advisory board are employees of the township. We get paid on a W-2 at the end of the year. That considers us an employee. So there's no reason why we shouldn't be able to man that during the other hours. Also, these euchre players and poker players are in the senior center. Yeah, they paid a dollar, which Cheryl said comes to $18, big whoop. But they don't have anyone from the township working that during those periods. So there's kind of a conflict, you're not making quite sense there, saying that they can be in there, but the other seniors can't. That doesn't quite make sense to me. And I will agree with Cheryl, and we've discussed this before on our board, that we don't understand how come we're paying someone for all these hours, but she's only there a few hours as the coordinator of the township. There's no reason why she shouldn't be able to be in there all the hours. The jobs that we were told she does at home, she could do from the senior center, using the senior center home, the senior center phone, and there's just no reason that she shouldn't be able to do that all at the senior center instead of having to do it from her home.
Thank you. Is there? You guys gonna argue on who's gonna?
John Reich Senior, and I live out on Cutler Road near Watson, which is the northmost west of Bath Township, and I can hear the siren just fine.
Good for you, I'm glad.
So I don't know who you polled. None of my neighbors have complained about it either.
I don't hear it.
I can't hear it.
He's on the
Varies.
He's on the other.
Other side.
He's on the other, closer to
But there's some
Watson.
places that I'm just saying there's,
Yeah, that's, so if he hears it, great.
yes.
I'm thrilled. That's,
Will Tyler White, Main Street resident. I have to echo some of the remarks of the earlier speakers about the senior center, the aging population. They need all the support they can get. They're going to need more help, not less. And as far as people working there, you know, I assume that there's a closed circuit TV feed in there that, if there isn't, there should be. It could be monitored by the police station. As far as I'm concerned, it should be like the libraries. It'd be open every day, 9 to 9 or something. People want to come and go as they please. Seniors know what they're doing. They're seniors. They've been around for a few years. So it seems a no-brainer to me. Congratulations on getting this TV thing going. I've been promoting that for years. I've seen you finally, we used it tonight for good effect. Two other things I wanted to mention is Trustee Fewens Bliss mentioned earlier that there is an emergency plan. We have an emergency plan. Well, where is it? Who's in charge of it? I didn't see it anywhere on the website. Has it been updated in the last 10 years? It would be nice to know a little bit more about that emergency plan. And the last item is earlier, one of the items on the agenda was a letter to the departments asking what do they want to do with this 1.3 million we're getting from the government. Well, that's just about equal to what the Downtown Development Authority would have in its budget right now if that was still around. I think you should do all the projects, well, actually, the main project that would use all that up is get new sidewalks, proper sidewalks and street lights all the way from the freeway up to the schools. So it looks like a proper community when you come in off the freeway. Now it looks like you're who knows where. So you could spend it all on that, new street lights, new sidewalks, because you're gonna be updating that Webster Road next year, I believe, anyway. And that was gonna be spent on that. But I see that you asked the department heads, what do you want to do with the money? When are you going to ask the public? It's their money, our money. You're going to have a town hall meeting, open discussion about that? You're gonna do a internet survey, you're gonna put that in the newsletter for people to respond? I've never once, and I've been living here for 40 some years, and I can't remember the last time I had anyone from the township board or got anything to mail that says, we'd like your opinion on something. The last thing, of course, was the broadband survey, and nothing came of that. So I would urge you, this is much more important. So ask the public what they want to do with the money, not just your department heads. Thank you for listening.
Thanks, Will.
Meg Ritchie, Outer Drive, and Will kind of brought up my exact same question that Trustee Ryan, you said that there was an emergency plan. What is that emergency plan?
What do you mean?
The emergency plan for this township?
It's like a 75-page document. I can't tell it to you right now. The supervisor has a copy though, because she's officially the one in charge.
It's not 75 pages, but no, I'm not in charge of it. I was at one point, but not anymore. Yes, they do have an emergency
A
plan.
generalized, shortened version,
Okay.
please, Ryan.
Oh, I'm not going to do that. I'll send it to you.
Okay.
Post it online.
Does anybody have any generalized answer for that question? Where is our township emergency location then? How about that, our location?
The only thing that is understood with it is that St. John's has a center, and he's the head of all that take place. They have meetings and et cetera, but it has to do more with cold weather, flooding,
Sure.
snow, that kind of thing.
Right, I gotcha.
Should it be?
Loss of
for-
power, would it?
Yeah,
okay.
exactly. Should it be for other things? Yeah.
Small.
And they'll get there eventually, assuming that the
But
right people are
probably the
involved.
location is in St. John's.
Yes.
Okay. And that was implemented then, I take it, years ago?
No, actually, they meet pretty regularly. And they do have, and it's right there in your directory for Clinton County. It'll say emergency services, emergency something. I can't even remember what it was. It's been so long since I've seen it.
So that's Clinton County, but Bath Township? We've
Bath
got our
Township
own,
isn't.
and that's the
Yeah, we
75
should,
page.
yes, we should have the same type of thing that they have for what would we do if in fact something happens. And they usually fall on the fire department or the police department.
Gotcha. The strategic plan, we still don't have one. I'm assuming that there's not gonna be time this year to even do a strategic plan, so I don't know how you're gonna do a budget for next year if you still don't have one. And along those same lines, the money that has been promised for different, speaking of Friends of Park Lake, was promised 50,000 to help with the nature trail, or I'm sorry, I said that all wrong. But 50,000 was slated for the nature trail. Forget Friends of Park Lake. I'd like to know, is that money going to be given out? Or when is that money going to be given out?
Well, your 3 minutes is up, so
I can still accept an answer.
no. Sorry about that. That's- It's not time for dialogue.
Jason Omri, G. Clace Road. I want to thank the board for its thoughtful discussion tonight.
3 minutes. You
I'll
got
be
3 minutes,
less than
shoot.
3 minutes. So thank you. I also am here to express my appreciation for Bath's emergency services. I had 2 separate occasions where I was able to utilize the services of the fire department and the police department, and in both cases, I got very prompt responses with very professional interactions. So thank you.
Thank you. Is there anybody else that's, who's gonna say, what's,
Oh, you can't start that yet.
Okay, Ray Edward Kotke, Park Lake Road.
member of Friends of Park Lake, board member of the Planning Commission. First question, the control and efficiency vulnerability assessment that Bethany Verbal gave us tonight, how much did that cost us? I guess that
I have no idea.
It was voted on.
I
don't
can't answer
remember.
that. It was included in a contract for multiple services, and I don't remember the exact
I
amount.
think that was like the 33,000.
Okay,
was
one of the
included.
things, in fact, was efficiency. If you all agree, that's very important. What brings me to the subject that is germane to me being up here is, as a member of the Planning Commission, we heard Ben Zeeb bring up, I believe, 5 new CIPs. In total, it was hundreds of thousands of dollars. And it kind of troubles me as a Planning Commission member and a member of this community, because as my esteemed colleague that is our secretary for Friends of Park Lake stated, when is that money for the Park Lake Trail going to, that is a CIP, it's the only CIP that's been approved and has funds allocated for it. And yet, we've not made one step forward on that. And what I want to ask you guys is I would like to see someone become a champion for this project and step up to the plate here and say, okay, let's get this CIP completed or even get it started. It hasn't been started. I asked Ben Zeeb in a meeting, I said, what's the problem with getting this CIP started, even started, phase 1? And what he told me was, quote, lack of direction. And I said, God, his title is Director of Parks and DPW. The only thing I can assume, and he stated it, is that his direction is to come from the superintendent's office, which has, of course, not come forward. I asked her with that question, and she said, well, things don't move as fast in municipalities as they do in business. And in business, we at least move something. And in municipalities, we'd like to see once funds are allocated and you have an alleged process of CIP, that thing should move. And that brings me to MCL Act 157 of 1905. I've told you people about this before. It's the Commission of Parks and Green Space, or Parks and Green Space Commission. You have one person who is presently working actively, DPW, and he is tasked with now 6 CIPs to the total of about, I'll say, oh, that's my timer. So I guess what I want to do is I want to see somebody marshal this CIP project, because it's kind of disgusting and ludicrous and laughable that we've done nothing with it.
Thank you, Ray. Is there anybody else that's? Good job, guys. Okay. Board comments? Start with trustee Speedwin-Splits.
I heard a public comment about not seeking feedback, and it reminded me that there is a rec survey out right now for the 5-year rec plan. When does that close?
Actually closed today.
So get home and do it right now. If you do want to give
We still
feedback
have
on
printed
something.
copies at the office, so if you would like to complete it.
And I know I got mine and my bills, and so we got lots of notification, but if folks have not responded to that, please do so. It'll help prioritize some of those projects actually that Ray mentioned that are coming before us at the Planning Commission. I have something to share here with the board members. A couple of weeks ago, House Bill 4860 was dropped. This is specific to what the woman who did our controls is looking at in terms of conflict of interest. This bill would sort of it would define what conflict of interest is for a township body and how we would go about naming that conflict. It would be called a legal conflict, and what that would look like and how we could opt out of voting on that. It's still a bill. It's been introduced to committee. It hasn't moved beyond that, but I thought it was helpful for us to know if this is something that we support. We can share that support with our elected officials. If not, we can share that with them as well. but something to keep close to us and keep watch on over the next couple of months. And then just a general thank you to Senator Sam Singh for advocating for Bath Township, and Senator Anthony, the Senate Appropriations Chair, Representative Cernoglu, and Representative Weiss, Representative Whitwer, who is the Appropriations Chair in the House, for moving our project along. The governor's gonna sign that in the next week here, so thank you to the governor too. It's nice to see that the Dem trifecta, however you feel about that, is producing for the township. So I wanna make sure to give them a $10 million worth of thanks from us. That's it for me.
I'd like to thank everybody for coming, staying. I just got my water bottle and got to looking at the back of it. These water bottles are starting to be 10-cent bottles.
That's right.
Some of them are 5 and some of them are 10-cent returnables.
Yep,
So maybe that'll keep them out of our lakes.
Great.
That's
let's
all.
hope so.
Great.
I just want to thank everybody for coming and sharing your thoughts. I think you guys have good inputs and we really listen and
Oh, I'm sorry. My comments for tonight have to do with the Lansing State Journal, and that they recently published their Female Athletes of the Year. Destiny McDaniels, who's a sophomore, was Division III state champion in the 100 hurdle. So that's very cool. They also published recently their Greater Lansing Dream Team, and that was Devondre. I always say that wrong. He goes by D. No wonder. From Bath. He's from Bath. Yeah, he's an athlete of the year is what he was designed for. A senior, darn it. I don't know what school he's going to. Does anybody know? I hope. Well, whatever school he decides, they're lucky. He had the high jump and finished in the 3rd division, 3 finalists. And he has the mark of 6 feet 7 inches. Pretty cool. I mean, he'll do better by the time he finishes. And Brandley Human was an all-area in sprints. He beat Ovid Elsie, Powama Westphalia, Fowler, and Ovid. Or, I'm sorry, not Ovid, Olive. I'll get it. Anyway, he did exceptionally well. So my shout outs for them and the board, I'm sure, for doing such an amazing job for Bath Township and for the school. I think that they deserve that kind of recognition. And thank you all for coming. We appreciated that, to say the least. Really. I don't blow smoke, so there you go. All right.
Just thank you again for attending and giving us your input on all the agenda items.
Yeah, I'd like to thank everybody for coming tonight, too. Thank you.
Same. Thank you for coming.
Oh, shoot.
I
You know
move
what I
being be
forgot?
adjourned.
I'll second that, Al.
Mr. Rosecrans?
Yes.
Ms. Butler Challenger, yes. Ms. Howe?
Yes.
Ms. Wilson?
Got to hand this
Ms.
out.
Kellerman?
Yes.
Mr. Funes Bliss?
Yes.
Mr. Benzie?
I miss you, Mike.
I was gonna
You get to stay. You get to stay.
I could stay overnight.
Yeah.
I was just
I'll
like,
have
oh,
to-
she's a good joke.